Hey everybody, Becky here. So as I was cutting out the kits for the round 3 kit 3 stamps in the mail, I realized that there was a lot of excess waste that is actually quite usable. So the easiest way to cut out when you're working with the thinlit dies, the easiest way to get the image, especially if it's an intricate one like the butterfly, to come out of the die is by placing a sheet of wax paper, and you can also add a dryer sheet in there as well. So I had this lovely wax paper butterfly, and then also this negative that we weren't going to be using in the kit because we were only going to be using this white cardstock butterfly, and this is what we used for the Wonderful You card as well as the bonus frame. So I've got these extra pieces here, and you know, I'm not like super efficient, super green, but I do like to try and make use of my scraps and not have a lot of excess waste. So I thought, what better way to use up this waste than to make a bonus card. So you'll find in your kit, if you're a subscriber, I've cut out a card base, and this is a 5.5 by 8.5, just whisper white card base, and then also a 4.25 by 5.5 whisper white cardstock panel, and then a small 1.75 by 1.25 whisper white cardstock panel. So these are the pieces that we're going to use, and I'm going to show you just a really fun bonus card to make. Now this is similar to a card I posted a couple of weeks ago with one of the celebration sets as well as a gorgeous grunge background. But we're going to change it up a little bit. So let's just go ahead. Let's start with the cardstock panel, and let's get out our Rich Razzleberry and Calypso Coral ink pads and our aqua painter. Ink refills. I said ink pads, but you can actually, if you have the ink refills and not the pads, you can just add the ink refill to an acrylic block or even just a plate or something. But we're going to start with the crisp cantaloupe, and I'm just going to kind of color it on my panel. Now I'm going to try not to add too much water because this is just a whisper white cardstock and not we're not using the watercolor paper, so it's not going to blend real well. But also, if you get it too wet, then it's going to kind of peel up your paper, and we don't want that. So we're just going to randomly just kind of scribble in some lines here. Once we have it, you know, fairly good coverage to where we want it, we're also going to add some splatters. So again, I'm going to take some ink refill, and I dried my brush off just on a paper towel, because you don't want it to get the ink splats to be a little bit darker. You don't want to have it too wet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my aqua painter, and I've just dabbed it into my ink refill, and I'm just going to hold my finger out, and I'm going to tap my aqua painter on my finger, and that's going to kind of get some splatter. Actually, sorry, I'm going to need a little bit darker than that. That's just going to put some random splatter on our panel. Oh, I'm going to need a little more. There we go. Okay, and then I'm just going to squeeze my aqua painter out onto my paper towel until it kind of comes clear. Okay, and then I'm going to pick up some of the Rich Razzleberry ink refill. I'm going to do the same thing. Just kind of splatter that on there. randomly. And if you just lightly dab the paper with your aqua painter, that will also put some larger splatters on there. So just kind of play around with it and put as much or as little as you want on there. But as I say, just be careful not to get the paper too wet, because you don't want that cardstock to peel up. So we're going to go ahead and take our heat tool to kind of help speed along the drying process. If you don't have a heat tool, no worries. You can just set it aside and let it air dry. But you'll want to make sure that it's completely dry before you move on to the next step. So let's go ahead and dry this. Okay, so now we have our base panel done. Let's go ahead and get out this small, the small 1¼ by 1¾ Whisper White. And we're going to take this image. This is from the Perfect Pen and Stamp Set. This is the stamp set that we've been using for the last 3 months, and this is the last month that we'll be using this stamp set. So we will have made 12 projects using just this one stamp set. So let's go ahead and ink that up in our Stays On Jet Black ink pad. And the paper isn't quite as big as the image, and so you'll want to scrap paper or something underneath, but we want to make sure we just get the wording. So we'll go ahead and stamp that on there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just trim out these individual words. Okay, so now we've got those trimmed out. We'll set those aside for just a minute. And then let's go ahead and grab our the watercolor cardstock panel, and then the butterfly negative. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some dimensionals, and I'm just going to put a couple of these on the back here. And you can be as liberal or as stingy as you want with these. I'm gonna tend to be a little liberal with them because I want to make sure that my panel's not sagging anywhere. So then we'll just go ahead and take the backs off, and we're gonna stick this to our watercolor panel. Okay, so now when we stick this on, whoops, I got one stuck to me. Okay, so when we stick this on, you don't have to worry about lining it up necessarily with the edges, because you can always trim those off. So what you want to do is make sure you get the coloring that you want and then stick it down. But when you do this, make sure you don't have any make sure your butterfly's not overhanging to where it doesn't get any coverage in the back. So I've gone ahead and we'll leave it there. Now as you can see, I've got some extra hanging out. We're just going to go ahead and trim that extra off. Okay, and remember, when you're trimming, you're only trimming this the back panel. Be careful not to trim the front panel, or then you might cry. So, okay. Now, let's go ahead and I'm taking my Project Life pen, and this is actually, doesn't say that it's a size, but if you look at the tips, there's one that's a little bit bolder point and one that's a little bit finer point. I'm actually going to use the bolder point one. And I'm just going to kind of take it and scribble a few lines on here. I'm not going to worry about them being too perfect because I'm kind of not really don't really care if they're not too perfect. We'll just kind of make a few scribbles on there, and then we'll maybe even make a few dots. Make some thinner, some a little bit wider. We'll just add those scribbles right on there. Okay, and then let's go ahead and take this this wax paper butterfly, and I'm going to kind of put it on there a little bit crooked so that it's not quite lined up with the watercolor background image. And then I'm going to take my handheld stapler, and from the top, let's just slide that on there. I'm going to add a couple of staplers. Yeah, we'll just leave it at 2. Okay, so then you have that portion. Now let's get our words out here. And let's go ahead and stick those on. Oops. Right up here, we'll do you. Now you can, if you want these to have a little more dimension, you can stick them on there with dimensionals. You could stick them on there with glue dots. But I actually want to be able to, I want to mill this card, and because it's already got some dimensions with the, between the 2 layers, I kind of wanted to make the front a little bit flatter, just so that I don't have to pay that extra postage when, for when you have really lumpy cards. So we'll just stick our words on there. You make me happy. And then we're done with that. So let's just go ahead and we'll put some fast fuse on the back here. Now I like my projects to stick and not come apart, so I'm put quite a bit of fast fuse on too. And then we're going to take our card base, and I'm just going to go ahead and line this panel up with the card base, and I'm going to stick that on there. And there you have it. You make me happy. Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this bonus project, and we hope to see you with Stamps in a Mill again soon.